Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 330. It is Friday today. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Whenever you listen to this recording, know that the Valentine's Day love is beaming out across the radio airwaves to you. It is gorgeous and sunny and pretty outside today. We finally have some blue skies and it's really cold. The weather has gotten extremely chilly today. I think we're in the 20s. So we're just looking from the inside to the outside and enjoying it from here. But the sun is shining, which feels so good. We've had a lot of rain and gray, and especially I think, in those winter months in the Midwest or northern areas, sometimes having so many days of gray, or maybe Seattle too, right, that area, so many days of gray, it's bad for the psyche. It's hard on the psyche. Sunshine is so life-giving and rejuvenating and brings joy. And so I celebrate today and say thank you to the sun and the clouds for allowing us this beautiful moment. Okay, so today I was going to read the lyrics to another Alicia Mathewson song because it was on my mind. It's called Sanctity. And it felt appropriate for today because it's about being in the sanctity of your own heart. And it's Valentine's Day, and so I thought, it'll be perfect. And I had a sense I had already read those lyrics before. So I went to my list of all the things I've done in this podcast space. And yes, I have read those lyrics before. It was episode 266 called Tipping Point. Because I trust signs and synchronicities and guidance when it shows up, I thought perhaps there is something for me to listen to in a podcast titled Tipping Point, in a time in my own journey where I'm like, what am I doing and which way am I going and what's next? So I listened to that episode today as I was getting ready, and I suggest if you have the time or feel a match to it, to perhaps pause this recording and go back to episode 266 if you haven't heard it before, and tune into that vibration. It's about creation and being in alignment with our path and knowing when we've reached the top of pushing the boulder uphill and we're about to start the downward slope of ease. How do we know, and what does it feel like? So there may be some nuggets of wisdom for you in that episode if you feel called. For me, it was a really beautiful validation of how our paths are very windy and can go up and down, and we don't always see what it is we are moving towards, or we do and we reach that next height, and then we're trying to figure out what's on the other side of the boulder, which direction to move next. There's this continuous expanding and then reaching another level and then expanding again. And listening to that podcast helped me feel more normal about, this is just another phase in my journey that I'm moving through. And I might not have clarity in this moment, but I know clarity is arriving. And until I have that clarity, I'm just going to keep trusting the one next step, the one next thing that I'm guided to do. So for me, I'm assuming you've been listening to some of the more recent podcasts, but if you haven't, I finished writing a book a few weeks ago and published it. And at the end of that process was on a little bit of a high after that, like, yay, everything's great. This book is so exciting. I feel so good about it. And then I I hit this sort of like dip down, which I'm going to talk about a little bit today. And so I've been sitting in this space of confusion and not knowing what's next, and not really feeling very inspired or creative. And so I'm moving my way through it, and I share it here because I've had several of you reach out to me and say, thank God you said that's exactly where I am. So I know I'm not the only one. But here's what I was going to offer as some examples. For me, it was writing this book, which is a very creative, highly creative, intuitive process for me. And it is deeply personal and vulnerable. And, I described in this book the journey of the soul, what the soul experiences outside of this human journey, and through my interpretation. And so the gift of sharing that is that I'm at a completion of that phase. And so in some sense it was like a death or an ending or a divorce. That's not the right word, but it's that same energy. It's like, here's where we were doing this thing, and now this thing is going to shift, and we're going to do it in a new way. So I described or offered the parallel of a woman who gives birth. You have this creative energy inside of you, you share it, and then the creative energy as you've known it is over. And you have this empty feeling inside. The womb has no new life being created inside, and it feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar and perhaps a little scary. What I want to offer as some examples, when we have a birth, when we have a death, when we go through a divorce, when we leave a job by choice or by being told to leave, when we have to move, when there are big changes in our lives, big shifts, even if the shift is for a celebration, a wedding, a birth, those are celebrations, there still is a sense of, now what? So I've done this, and now what? Now what do I do? Now who am I? Now what becomes of the path I've been on? For many of us, that feeling of going through that change or that portal, it can feel like we are doing it by ourselves. Even if we birthed a child with a partner and the partner is still right by our side and the baby is still right by our side, we can feel like nobody understands. It's just me. Nobody feels the way I feel. This is my experience. I'm all by myself. When we have someone we love transition, even if we were happy that they were transitioning because they've been in pain or they've been struggling or they've had a full life and they were tired, no matter the reason, when that transition happens and we're still here by ourselves, it feels like we are by ourselves. Even if we're surrounded by family and friends and loved ones, it can feel so isolating. For me, this journey of releasing this book, it has felt that true to me. Like, nobody gets it. Nobody understands what I'm going through. I'm the only one, as I say it, I just laugh. I'm the only one who's ever written a book, who's ever felt this way. I mean, we can hear how silly it is as we say it out loud, and yet in the moment, it's truth. It's real. There's just no possible way that another could meet us in the space that we find ourselves in. So, yeah, take a breath, right? When we're in that isolated place, it doesn't matter how many people are knocking on the door. Until we choose to change the experience we're creating, we're going to keep feeling isolated. And so I've been sitting with it and trying to put my arms around it and understand it and knock at my own door. I've just been sort of wrestling this one I read the song lyrics in the energy gym the other night. It was this great song my daughter recommended by Florence and the Machine called Shake It Out. And one of the lines, it says, I'm going to take that horse and wrestle it to the ground. It feels like that when we are going through something really big. It feels like we're going to have to just pull it to the ground and wrestle it, and maybe we'll win, maybe we won't. So, for me, I often like or prefer to have my own space, my own counsel, in my own meditation time, and find clarity for myself in myself. And so in much of my life, especially over the last few years as my energy intuitive abilities have increased, I isolate, I pull in, I don't share. I keep it all inside, and I move through it, and I wrestle that horse to the ground by myself until I find my clarity, and then I present. Here's what I've figured out and decided, and here's what I'm going to do. And that has worked really well for me for a long time. And this time it hasn't. It hasn't. It felt more like I'm going stir crazy in my mind because the loop was so big. So what I share here, what I encourage you to do if you're listening to this and feeling any resonance to what I'm describing, is perhaps this time in this collective energy field on Earth right now, the shift that we are all making is to allow in others to support us in our journey, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to be witnessed, and then to receive the reflections that are offered with love. I have the most incredible daughter who just gets me. She just gets me. And she calls me on my shit when I need it, and she loves me through the tender places when I need it. And she showed up for me this past weekend in the most beautiful way and just listened and told me what she thought, but didn't tell me what to do, and just allowed me to kind of muddle my way through some options and figure out if I had clarity, which I still didn't. But her space of just sitting with me, it opened something inside of me to say, it's okay to not have the answer yet. It's okay to just be sitting in this unknown, asking what now, and it's okay. And I could breathe a little better, a little deeper. It wasn't quite as overwhelming. So then I showed up in my energy gym, awesome community on Tuesday. And normally there's tons of talking and sharing, and it's just this very fast moving collaboration. And this time we had a pause about 45 minutes in, and no one was sharing. I'm like, oh, damn it. I guess I'm going to have to talk. and because I feel so safe in that space, the confusion just kind of went blah. Here's what's going on. And I don't know what I'm doing with my life now. Which is so normal for anyone in this place of a big change. We don't know what it looks like. And all the options are seeming to sit on the table. So which one do we choose? What do we do? And they just loved me as I said, does this make any sense? What do you guys, is this even like logical? They just said, yeah, totally. It's all good. And no one was telling me what to do. They were just loving me as I am. It felt incredible. I'm so good at giving that to others. It felt incredible to receive it back. And I finished that call just knowing like everything's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And I don't have to know in this moment what it's going to look like. It's all going to be fine. So one of the beautiful women in the gym had sent me a video link last week, in the middle of all of my I don't even know what to do, she sent me a video link, and it was to this incredible tarot card reader. Her name is San Tarot. You can find her on YouTube. S-A-N, San Tarot. And she does all of these card readings based on your zodiac sign. And so the woman who felt called to it had been watching the one for Leo. But in the Leo reading, this woman was describing a teacher that showed up for the person who's a Leo, and how this teacher, how she works and what her intentions are, and what her communication to outside dimensions or other dimensions looks like, and what this woman, this Leo person, would receive from being around the creations of that teacher. And from the moment I started watching it, I started crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's describing me. Like, that is how I teach, which I don't even use the word teach. That's how I love. It's how I hold space. It's everything I do. It's who I am. And being seen in that way was absolutely the most incredible gift to receive in the midst of all of this. I don't know who I am, right? Having this beautiful woman go, I know who you are. Here's who you are. Oh, it was so powerful for me. So this week, after being with my energy gym friends, I went back to San Tarot, to her YouTube channel, and I started watching some of her videos for Aquarius, because I'm Sun and Moon Aquarius, so I'm watching some of those, and they're good. And then I'm like, well, I'm Gemini rising, and rising is, sort of like what you're doing here in this planet. And so I start watching the Gemini one yesterday. She literally says from the very beginning, you're facing a major decision right now and you don't know which way to go. And so we're going to look at what this is meaning for you. And here's what I see. And basically the whole card reading was, it's all going to be fine. The last card she pulled was balance. Everything's going to be fine. So you just need to trust your intuition. And she was describing how the decision-making process was very much a blend of my own intuition, listening to my own knowing, and allowing in others to support me. Going to those I trust and love and sharing, and then receiving reflections. And it was amazing. I mean, she literally read my life again. So why do I share all of this? Mainly because you should go to Santaro's website also, or YouTube channel, and see what she has to say, because it might just be a match for you. And also, there is so much strength and clarity, not even clarity perhaps, comfort. There's so much comfort that comes from allowing others into our experience. I did that podcast recently about allowing. Allowing means you give permission. You open the gates, you open the access so that others can be in your energy field and be in the process with you. And that has been my experience over the last week or so, is how do I allow people in without giving authority or power to them, just allowing them to support me, and knowing that they love me and want to support me. And so I'm discerning that, I'm feeling my way through it. And I don't have the answers of what's next. But here's another nugget I will offer. When someone dies, when we go through a divorce, when we are getting married or buying a house or having a baby, there's often that period of what we call nesting in the birth process, right? Right before the baby's born, you got to make your nest. You got to get everything ready and make sure everything's in its place. When someone dies or transitions, we go through all the photographs and we organize the legal documents and we, do all this stuff with the will. There's a sort of tuning back in to the story or the path or the energy, tuning back into the energy of what was in order to make space for what is becoming. For me, when I was writing the book, at the same time, I literally went through my entire basement and cleaned every cabinet, every drawer, organized all my photographs. I mean, cleaned my whole office, like the whole thing. It was insane what I was doing physically as I was writing the book. And what I have found brings me the most comfort right now is going back through my creations, my past creations, and tuning back into them and cleaning them up and redesigning and packaging some of them, and feeling the beauty, the gift of what I have already brought into creation in my work, and then putting it into its right place with just the right energy, so that whatever I choose to do next, the space of my website, the creations as I've put them together and held them with great care in my website, they feel perfect. They feel complete. And that creates room for whatever it is that I'm stepping into next. So I've spent a lot of time in front of my computer, and I'm rereading my own words and looking at the meditations and the different things I've created and feeling such joy, such satisfaction in what I've already birthed, knowing even if I choose at some point to not do this energy work that I do, which I can't see that I'm going to do that, but even if I did, there's so much content and magic available in my website. I don't have to be in the my physical presence doesn't have to be active in the work for the work to still be so powerful. The online courses and the meditation recordings, there's just so much content that is so rich and so powerful and so fun. So I've been in that space, nesting in reverse. I don't know. Nesting is preparing for the baby. I've birthed the baby, and now I'm like putting the baby clothes away, putting the diapers away. I don't know. I'm in this after nesting process. But it's so calming to me and so fulfilling right now. And I feel like it's allowing this book to just sort of land and find its feet, find its wings. The energy of that book to just, breathe a little bit. And then I'll know what to do next. So, so I shared earlier this week, I know what I'm doing for sure with the circles and the energy gym and the meditations. And, there's a lot that I'm still individually engaged in and physically present for. And there's something new forming inside of me, something new that I don't know yet. In the Santero Gemini reading, she was like, it's like you're preparing for the Iron Man. Let me tell you, I'm definitely not doing that. I am not a marathon person in the slightest. And swimming and bicycling, no way. No way. But she was describing how there's another challenge that's presenting itself to you, and you're feeling called to it, and it's in alignment with your soul. It's an optional thing you're choosing to do, and it's absolutely what's right for you next. So she said it's like self-imposed next level discipline that you're calling in, a shift in your schedule and your activities, and like something so exciting, so challenging. I feel all of that, and I have no idea right now what that is, and I don't have to know yet. I don't have to know yet. And being able to have conversations and then share here and, just be with this shift, this movement inside of me, that's enough for right now. that's enough. It will sort itself out. The clarity will arrive. I have absolutely no doubt. My guides and my soul have some very clear ways of communicating with me. And this unknown is serving, or I wouldn't be in this unknown. So I just focus on relaxing and meditating and cuddling with those I love. And I said to one of my friends yesterday in an email, like, I'm going to start saying thank you more often. I'm going to not look at how I don't know and focus on the unknown. I'm going to start saying thank you for the things that are so abundantly and graciously, constantly being put into my world, into my path. There is so much love and abundance in my journey right now, today, this weekend. And so I'm going to say thank you more often, and trust there's a path that's presenting itself. I don't know yet what it is, but I'm having some beautiful signs and winks from the universe along the way. Yeah, so there you go. That's what's happening. That is what's happening here. I guess that's all there is to share in this moment. The 1 day a week podcast feels good, exciting. I have been listening, if I haven't told you yet, I've been listening to Spiritual Asshole by my amazing friend Brendan Fitzgibbons, and he only does one a week, and now I'm like, oh, you need to do more. One a week is not enough. And it's so much fun to anticipate when he's sharing it and then look for it and listen to it. He had one come out on Wednesday, and it was about the guy who is in charge of the movement, the Big Quiet. I hadn't even heard about it. And I'm learning all this about this beautiful festival, huge group meditation with silence. Oh, it's so cool. So there's room in my schedule for me to tap into some of these new things that I didn't have time for before. And so for that, I'm very grateful. So if you're not listening to that podcast yet, today's the day. Go tune in. I think there are 6 episodes now, and they're all so interesting and funny. So funny. Brendan's just this dry, hysterical comedian from New York City that just says it as it is. Okay. All right. Now I'm complete. I will see you here next week on Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. My loves. Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you for tuning in to this vibration of pure love. I invite you to join me on Sunday mornings for an hour of meditation, visualization, and energy healing, where we realign our mind, body, spirit with Gaia and Source. You can learn more at mysouljourney.com. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.